Portions of this show are recorded. Strap in and be prepared.
You just heard Baby J about 3 minutes give his entire A to Z on what was going on. I didn't interrupt you.
I don't even I got to everything, honestly.
No, you didn't get to everything.
Interesting guests.
Kelly Graves, Mike Parker, Josh Pate, Melissa Lombardi, Yogi Roth, who said that Justin and I are smart.
Sharp opinions.
I can see Dan Lanning sitting in his office, rubbing his hands together and saying, yeah, bring it on. You're just giving me juice.
I think you could be the type of team that has guys that excel in certain things. You don't need somebody that's great at everything. You need to be able to put guys in position where they're going to succeed.
And some smiles.
Is this thing on?
Is this thing working? No, that's why you got to do this. You got to go.
Hello?
Hello? Testing, testing,
it's like the little
testing.
girl in Nemo where she's tapping on the glass.
Fishy! Fishy, wake up, Fishy!
It's Danny Havel.
We have to be more specific. We have a lot of pickle things going on,
know.
apparently.
Justin Grossweiner.
It's a Schwar bomb. That's a man right there hitting that ball.
Danny and Justin starts now on Fox Sports Eugene and Newport.
Hello, neighbors, and welcome high atop the Delta Triad in the Crystal Palace in Eugene and Newport, live from the Bigfoot Beverages Studios. This is the Danny and Justin radio program on Fox Sports. Thanks for tuning in for, is it already a hump day? It is. It's a Wednesday here on the left coast. Well, it's Wednesday in, half the world for a little while longer, and then somebody's going to turn into Thursday, or I think it's still in Tuesday. All right, we're going to get confused there. I'm not going to dive too much deeper into that. You can follow us live on Twitter and Blue Sky, Danny and Justin. You can go to Bigger Bets as well if you want to play on Fridays against us. Hosts reigned root. I can't remember what I was going to say. The hosts reign supreme this week. That's what I wanted to say. You can also pod us wherever you pod. Danny and Justin, the fastest 60 minutes in sports, will also get you there. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Danny Havel, trying to struggle through the rest of this week. I'm exhausted. That's my tag team partner, Justin Grossner. We call him Baby J. What a boy!
Well, it's a weird week, isn't it? It's a short week for us covering the Oregon Ducks.
I want to get more than 5 hours of sleep at one time.
Yeah.
Did you get a rest today? Did you take a nap?
I did take a nap.
I know
today.
your phone was off.
It was like a 11 to 12 o'clock nap. Yeah. Woke up at about 9.
Love to live your life.
It's not bad sometimes. I got to sleep in today a little bit.
We got a packed show for you today.
Yeah,
great
fun
job,
one.
Mr. Producer, co-host, Baby J. We've got Isaac Streeter coming up, Mustang, in just a few moments. We'll talk Oregon Ducks football. We'll also talk Oregon State basketball. We'll also hear a little bit. He had a conversation with Mark Wasikowski.
Yeah, I just want to get his early impressions on
Oregon baseball. Yeah. They signed a couple of kids. Oregon State also signed several kids.
Yes,
here in the last 24 hours. So we'll run through all that with him. Also, Jarrid Denney from the Register Guard. We'll talk a little high school football. The OSAA playoffs enter the quarterfinal rounds: 6A, 5A, 4A, 3A, 2A, 1A, and a lot of teams still locally involved, and a huge matchup coming up in a couple of fronts. Churchill and Thurston going to go at it. Mm-hmm. Willamette's on to the quarterfinals. They've got a big matchup at home against Central Catholic. That is going to be a monster game. So a lot to talk about with Jarrid Denney. So we'll have a twofer for you again today. And then some of our thoughts and such. A nice win last night for Kelly Graves' squad. Mia Jacobs steps in, and Katie Fiso as well. A nice job. 46 points combined as they set down Grand Canyon, 84-66. Duck women are now 3-0. They went out 28-9 in the first quarter. Oregon men tonight against South Dakota State. Oregon State tonight against North Texas. All those home matchups. And, of course, Friday night we race to the finish with a 6 o'clock kick for Minnesota and Oregon under the lights at Autzen Stadium. The weather, iffy at best.
Better or worse than... Okay, let's start with the Iowa game.
I think it'll be better than Iowa.
Okay, better and worse than the Wisconsin game.
Better than Wisconsin.
Okay.
I mean, because Wisconsin was worse than Iowa.
You think so?
Yes.
I guess it was. The second half was, for sure.
In spurts, it was literally monsoon-like. You could not see across the field it was raining that hard. I did not notice that. Of course, I wasn't at Kinnick Stadium, and if there's a listener out there that wants to text at us, at Danny and Justin and tell us what it was like in Iowa City. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe you were at the Wisconsin game and that game, and you was like, no, it was worse.
Good barometer.
That'd be great. If you want to text at us, I'll read it on the air. We got 52 more minutes where we can do that. Just about. So how was your evening?
It was good. Nothing super crazy. Just went and I have a fly problem I'm trying to take care of at home. So
Fruit flies?
I think so.
Did you leave some fruit out somewhere?
No, I'm pretty...
You have plants?
No, I really don't know what it is. They're all really concentrated to this window that they really like. So what I did, thanks to my grandma's idea, I left out some, like a little bit of apple cider vinegar.
Yeah, vinegar.
With a little trap, basically.
Okay.
So,
and is that working?
It's working okay. Yeah, it's a good start. It's a slow build. It's passive. I don't have to do anything, which is nice. I don't have to use a fly swatter, but, it's not the best problem to have.
No, it's not. By the way, thanks again to Jaleel Kindle, one of the assistants at University of Oregon football program, for coming out and joining us at Laurelwood yesterday. We met Catherine as well for Friends of the Children, Lane County. They've got they've got a fundraiser this weekend that I want to make sure you know about. It is the Friends of the Children, Lane County. They've got a brunch, and we'll talk more about that. The Downtown Athletic Club is where it's going to be at. You can purchase tickets right now at a table from 11 to 1 on Saturday. So no Duck game on Saturday, because they play on Friday night. Let's head on over to the Oregon Man Clinks hotline. And let's welcome back our good friend from the Portland Tribune. We call him Mustang. He's Isaac Streeter. You can follow him on Twitter, Isaac_Streeter, and he joins us right now. Isaac, how are things? You've been a busy, busy boy.
I am quite busy right now. We're in the awesome overlap of football and basketball season, but always happy to come on and talk some ball with you folks. How are you guys?
We're good, thanks. We're staying dry, we're staying warm.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to the first snow. The Leaf guys came through our neighborhood this weekend, or actually not this weekend, today. Not this weekend, like today, doing the street sweeping and picking up all the leaves.
I'm from Alaska, Danny. Oregon doesn't have snow.
We're from Chicago. Oregon doesn't have snow. In certain part, Eastern Oregon gets snow, right? Isaac, does. Eastern Oregon gets snow.
I'm sorry?
Eastern Oregon gets snow.
That's what I've heard. I've never made it out that far yet.
I'm the only one that's lived in Eastern Oregon. Yes, they get snow in Eastern Oregon, and a lot of it. All right, where do you want to start? We want to start football? We want to start Oregon State men's basketball? Where do you want to start? Because we got a wheel here. We could spin it.
Spin that wheel, boys. Let's see what we got.
All right, Oregon State.
I'm ready. I can fire from the hip. So.
Oregon State men's basketball tonight. Wayne Tinkle brings in his squad 2-0 against North Texas 3-0. Something's going to give tonight. 6:30 tonight at Gill Coliseum. Josiah Lake, the second WCC Player of the Week. As I said the other day, we're going to be calling his name a lot. Last season, these two teams met a 58-55 win for the Mean Green in Denton, Texas. Beavers are coming off their third 20-win season in the last 35 years. They're second under Wayne Tinkle. Is this squad a team that is like what Wayne Tinkle wants to bring to the floor? Is this really a squad that he can work with?
Yeah, I think it is. I think they have a lot of growth that they need to do, and I think that they're still sorting out who their identity is really going to be on the floor. And obviously, they lost so much in the portal last year, but have reloaded. And thus far, I think they're seeing that they're learning really quickly what they're not great at, and they're also learning where they are really valuable. And in that regard, I think they're just so fantastic with JoJo kind of leading the offensive charge. And once I've joked that they built the entire plane here out of wing shooters, and once they really start to get some of those guys hot, I think they could be a really talented team.
JoJo, as you call him, a junior guard from Tualatin, this is a great story. He started as a walk-on, and now he's a full scholarship player, scored 22 points on Friday against UIC. That surpassed his previous career high of 16. And with him and Des White, the transfer, the kid from Missouri State, that's a pretty potent backcourt.
Yeah, I'd agree. And, even kind of looking beyond Des, Matthias Samar, who's a freshman from overseas for them, has also been really sharp. And they're liking the stuff that they're getting out of Jorge Diaz-Graham as like a stretch four for them. So, been an interesting team 2 games in.
Do you get a sense of who that number 2 scorer might be, or could this just be one of those teams where it's Josiah Lake and then kind of the pecking order after that is a bunch of kind of everybody that's
Interchangeable
contributing?
parts, yeah.
Interchangeable parts.
Yeah, I think it's mostly going to be the interchangeable parts and very matchup based. When they're going to play some of these smaller WCC teams, I see them, really wanting to work the post a little bit more with, Diaz Graham, Noah Ammenhauser, the Coastal Carolina transfer at center, Yak Yak, who's a former D2 guy. And then, if they're playing a bit of a bigger team, they're probably going to want to shoot it more. And then I think that's where kind of Matthias Samar comes in as that 2 guard who can play the 3 some. But yeah.
We're here with Isaac Streeter. We call him Mustang from the Portland Tribune. You can follow him on Twitter, Isaac_Streeter, on the Denney and Justin radio program here for a Wednesday. So it definitely is an international flavor for Wayne Tinkle's squad. You've got kids like Munch from Denmark, Sai from France, Samar, you mentioned, from Slovenia. You've got Finland on it. You got France on it. You got Australia there. You've got the Canary Islands. I mean, New Brunswick. I mean, how many miles has this staff logged to go collect these kids, or is it just they are coming to Corvallis?
I think they're doing really good stuff on the international recruiting front, and I think that's going to become a really big trend we're going to see in college basketball, especially for some of the coastal schools. You're seeing it at Oregon with Wei Lane. Apologies if I'm pronouncing his name.
No, you got it right.
You got it right.
You got it right, bud.
Awesome. Well, it's good to hear. But, their Chinese guard, and with a lot of these Oregon State guys coming in from overseas, I think, and you're seeing it with Oregon State women's basketball too, who has a really unique forward that we could spend an entire episode talking about how good I think she's going to be. But it's definitely becoming a trend across college basketball, especially in the rev share era, where this is coming and getting your education in the States and making money through rev share is just as good of a deal as playing EuroLeague basketball for a lot of these kids. And I think we're going to continue to see that really dominate, especially at kind of some of the more mid-major level.
And kind of early impressions, still only 2 games in, but in terms of the stocks, as they call it nowadays, steals and blocks, it's interesting. They have 14 steals so far in 2 games, but only 1 block. Any concern about the interior presence defensively?
I wouldn't say so. I think North Dakota State is a team that shoots a ton of threes, and Illinois Chicago just was not as big as them. I don't think there was a lot of these teams just haven't been trying to play in the post against them, and I think as they start to see some of those bigger teams, the blocks thing can go up. But I wouldn't put too much stock into it 2 games in.
So, Isaac, one last question on basketball, then we'll flip over to football. How do these Beavers, or is it way too early to figure out, how do they stack up in the WCC? Because it looks to be fairly stacked.
Yeah, I think the WCC has a pretty clear upper 4 right now, and that would be, Gonzaga, St. Mary's, San Francisco, and then Santa Clara is playing a really good offense kind of out the gate. And then there's kind of that, tier 2 or tier 3 of the league, and I think Oregon State's in that right now. I think the top of the league is really sharp. Gonzaga and St. Mary's are really out there, kind of running the front of it. But Oregon State can make some noise. Obviously, they got into the tournament last year as a 5 seed, and I kind of see that being a range again.
So last home game before they head out on the road for 4 games, which will start here in Eugene against Oregon on the 17th at 7 p.m. against the Ducks. They take on North Texas tonight at Gill at 6:30, and you will be in attendance for that game. So let's switch on over to what your Friday is going to look like. Minnesota comes in to take on Oregon, 7 or 6, depending on what poll you believe. Oregon's 8-1, 5-1 in the Big Ten. Minnesota comes in at 6-3 and 4-2, and it's a very interesting 4-2. They get blasted by Ohio State and Iowa, only scoring 3 points in both of those games. Lose to Cal, 27-14, but then they've got to win over Rutgers. They've got to win over Purdue. They've got a great win over Nebraska, where they kind of dominated that Husker offense. And then they get the Michigan State overtime win, which was kind of meh. So what do you think P.J. Fleck wants to try and dial up against this Oregon defense?
I think it's going to be I think Minnesota's going to want to try and play a very similar game to what Oregon saw against Wisconsin and Iowa. I think they're going to really want to, control clock, own possessions, let their defensive line really eat up front as best they can, and try to limit the number of times Oregon can really touch the ball. I would imagine it's a run heavy game for them. But they've been sharp behind Drake Lindsay. I think that freshman quarterback's coming along pretty nicely, and if they can run the ball, I don't think they really have a chance in this one. I think this is Oregon hitting its stride and coming into their final form. But with some of the injuries they've had and the uncertainty around that, who knows?
Minnesota is one of the best teams at getting to the quarterback. They've got 32 sacks in 9 games. That's a rate of about 3.5 sacks per game. Leads the Big Ten, 4th in the country. Total 32 sacks, tied for 6th most already in Minnesota's record book. That dates back to 1984. So is that what obviously P.J. Fleck wants to try and do, is disrupt this Oregon offense? Because who knows what's going to be on the field for Oregon this week in terms of a short week. You already know that the receiver room is kind of banged up. Kenyon Sadiq, they say possibly he'll be back. So, I mean, is that going to be the game plan and the formula? Is it going to be putting pressure on Dante Moore?
Yeah, of course. And I think it's been kind of my I feel like a broken record writing about some of these Big Ten conference games because they're just all battles in the trenches. If you can compete along the front 7 or your front 5 on offense, and that's where games get won in this sport. And I think Minnesota's doing it better than anybody in the pass rush thing. But if Oregon proved anything last week, it's that they'll run the ball at will, and can't rush the passer if they're not dropping back to pass. So. We'll see how their defensive line plays, just kind of top to bottom. But if there's an area where Minnesota has an opportunity, it's definitely putting pressure on the quarterback.
And just kind of in terms of the injuries, do you think that this team will be able to sustain being able to win? Because I think we all know they need a win to get to the CFP. If they have some of these injuries for, say, the next couple of weeks, if Sadiq and Moore don't come back until, say, the Washington game, do you think they're going to be able to sustain offensively just through that ground game?
I mean, Dan Lanning didn't play 80 guys a week for the first month of the season for no reason. They've made it very clear that their identity is going to be in strength and numbers, and being good and technically sound at everything. And I think it could present an issue if you're trotting Cooper Perry out there against the Ohio States of the world, but this team clearly has confidence in everyone it has on the roster, and DeCorian is clearly a special talent. I can't really remember a receiver that I've seen with my own eyes perform as well as he is as a freshman. But I think this team is really built to survive anything. I think that's really where they're trying to find their identity.
What do you expect? What do you think realistic expectations are for Evan Stewart if and when he does come back?
Oh, I think if you're at this point in the year, if we're still, hoping that Evan Stewart's coming back, he hasn't played an organized football game since January or before January. He didn't even go in the Rose Bowl. So,
yep.
First you got to worry about his health, and then it's getting him up to speed and fully conditioned and mentally in line with the playbook. And he's a full year behind now at this point. And I think putting a ton of stock into, if he gets back this year, awesome. But I would not be high on the list of people really thinking that can be an immediate impact having him return.
The great Portland Tribune scribe, it's Isaac Streeter joining us on the Danney and Justin radio program. We call him Mustang as we roll through a Wednesday here. Coming up in just a few moments, Jarrid Denney will talk a little OSAA high school athletics as the football tournament rolls on, because playoffs is a tournament as well, because with the 6A ranks you got that Columbia Cup thing going on, so I think that's more of like a tournament. And he'll join us here in a little bit. We'll break that down because a lot of good local schools are in action. So let's wind up a little bit. I know you've got possibly an article coming out. You were able to run into Mark Wasikowski, Gunner, was it last night or a few nights ago? And I know you're writing something up.
I am, yeah. Had a great conversation with Waz earlier today. You guys know me. There's nothing I love more than talking about baseball and talking about baseball with baseball nerds. And, Waz is one of the kings of that realm. So getting to pick his brain just about, the Big Ten and Oregon baseball and his current roster was, that's always a pleasure of mine. Yeah.
So what does he think of some of the kids he signed in the offseason? Because there were a couple of ones that are just announced today.
Yeah, he seems super stoked with the recruiting class that they've had that one ready to go for a little bit, and it seems like all those kids are ready to go. It was an interesting off season for them, and Waz said it himself at his podium interview last week. I wasn't able to go, but listened in on it. That they fought really hard in the off season to recruit through the portal and recruit high schoolers, and it didn't always go their way, but they lost out on some guys that they were really in on, and there was some frustration with that, it seems to me. But, they've assembled another roster, and got to give credit to the team. They're one of 10 programs in America that's been to regionals in the last 3 years and supers in 2 of them. So, he's putting together a legit program. I'm anxious to see if they're able to get over the hump.
And speaking of that, are the expectations still that this season to get to a regional and maybe advance past it?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of the nature for Waz at this point. I think his hope is always he wants to go to Omaha. I'm not really sure. Between him and Coach Canham at Oregon State, I mean, those are 2 dudes who their expectations is Omaha, and they want to win at a high level and keep Pacific Northwest baseball on the map. And I admire both of them for that. So I think if they don't go to a regional, there will be Waz will be excruciatingly frustrated over that. And I think the ceiling is always Omaha for both of those programs.
All right, Isaac, I know you're not going to have a whole lot of time to think about it, but have you started thinking about Thanksgiving?
I have, actually. I'm got some unique plans this year. Gonna be up in Seattle with my best friend's family this year, and then hopefully attending the Oregon-Washington game
on that Saturday. Yeah, depending on what time it is. Who knows? I mean, we don't even know what time the USC game's going to be yet, which is ridiculous. The entire Big Ten schedule, we don't have no idea next week, right?
I think that's true.
Yep, gotta love the 6-day holding pattern, right? Yep.
It's excruciating to me. All right, so what's your favorite Thanksgiving? Are you a stuffing guy, or are you a potato guy, or what? Inside, outside, or? So
my dad is a fantastic cook,
okay.
And he smokes turkey every year, and so I'm a turkey guy.
Okay.
White meat or dark meat?
Dark.
Okay. Yeah,
good answer.
Yeah, good answer. much more juiciness in the dark meat. All right. Thanks, Isaac. We appreciate you, buddy. Have a great rest of the day. Look forward to the article.
Hey, thanks, guys. And tell Jarrid I say hi. Give him a nice nickname.
Is this his 3rd time?
No, 2nd time.
Okay, second time. He gets it after this one. So yeah, believe me, he's gonna get one that's stellar.
I'll come up with a list of I'll put together a short list of ideas.
I like it.
Your way.
I love it.
All
Thanks, Mustang. Take care.
Take care, boys.
All right, there he goes, the great Isaac Streeter from the Portland Tribune. And speaking of Jarrid Denney, yeah, they were actually going back and forth. They were like, "We're back to back." Did you see that on Twitter?
I did not.
It's pretty funny.
I was taking my 11 to 12 nap.
Well, all of the rest of the world was moving on. So the aforementioned Jarrid Denney from the Register Guard going to come up, formerly of the Statesman Journal, on 3 Sports, USA Today, and a proud alum of the University of Oregon. We're talking high school football. Playoffs coming up next on the Danny and Justin radio program. Hey, we want to invite everyone to go get tickets for this Saturday. It's the Friends of the Children, Lane County's 5-year birthday brunch. Just go to friendslanecountyor.org. Get your tickets. You can buy a table as well, but you can buy individual tickets. If you do buy a table, you'll get a U of O coach or a player. A brunch, Downtown Athletic Club, goes from 11 to 1 on Saturday. A nice fundraiser for them and celebrating the 5-year birthday brunch. So we encourage you to go get tickets. We had Jaleel Kindle yesterday from the U of O coaching staff on, and Catherine got to meet them yesterday up at Laurelwood. So it was a nice time. So we encourage you to help the kids by supporting them with the birthday brunch. Let's head on over to the Oregon Man Clinic's hotline. Back to back, once again, Jarrid Denney. We welcome him in. A returning guest. First time I get to talk to you, young man. You can follow Jarrid at JARRID_Denney. That's with 2 E's. I'm going to make sure you figure that out. You can just type it on out on Twitter. He's a Register Guard reporter, USA Today, formerly of On3 Sports, a proud alum of the University of Oregon, the Daily Emerald as well. Statesman Journal, I think I just gave your whole CV. Jarrid, welcome to the program.
Hey, how you doing, guys? I appreciate you calling me young. I woke up with like a sore back neck thing going on, so I don't feel super young today.
Well, you know what? This is what the great thing about radio is. You need to look pretty, or you can actually be laying down when you're talking to us, and nobody's going to know any different.
It's beautiful. How are you guys doing today?
We're doing great, thanks. And thanks for hopping on the program. So high school football enters the quarterfinal rounds, and some local teams have really started to make their mark. And I want to start with the 5A ranks, even though there's a huge 6A matchup between Willamette and Central Catholic. But wow, what did Churchill do? They pulled off one of the big upsets in the first round, taking out a red-hot Lebanon team 21-8, as Lucas Babbitt has 182 yards rushing, scored all three of the Lancers touchdowns, and they come out of nowhere. And now they get a matchup locally with Thurston, who bounced back to beat Ben last weekend 34-17. So this is a great local matchup to start off the slate in the playoffs for the quarterfinal rounds.
Yeah, without a doubt. And I think you're right. That was an absolutely incredible upset for Churchill to go to Lebanon. Like that Lebanon team has been the hottest team in the state, really, for the last month or so. They beat so many good teams between Silverton and Dallas, who I covered both those teams last year when I was at the Statesman, and they're tremendous teams. So to do that is quite a resume. And, I mean, for Churchill to go up there and take care of business. You mentioned Lucas Babbitt. Just an incredible player, incredible running back. Like, I was kind of trying to think back through the years of, like, maybe there's been more productive running backs to come through the Midwestern League in the last decade, but I don't know if there's anybody who just sort of does it with, like, the type of brute force that Lucas Babbitt does. And they run a double wing, kind of wing tee scheme, and they run it really well. And Babbitt just fits so well into that system, man. And he made me look good last week. I wrote kind of a big old school newspaper profile on him, and then he went and had a game. I shouldn't even say the game of his life, because he's ran for almost 200 yards every game this year. But to do it in those circumstances, it is obviously really impressive. And I think that Churchill team got I don't want to say a raw deal on their seeding, because you got to take care of business in league, and they dropped a few tough ones that knocked them down to the 13 seed. But I think they're a better team than that 13 seed might indicate.
Yeah, absolutely. That one against Crater was crazy. They lose last second after an onside kick and a number of other things that don't go their way. But you were there also about a month ago when Thurston and Churchill played in the regular season. It was a 27-16 win for Thurston over Churchill. And so, you know, we've seen these two teams on the field before. What do you think the chances are for Churchill? Like, what do they need to do to turn this one around and get a victory in the playoffs?
I think game script when these two teams play really is like just dictates where it goes from there. Like if Churchill can get the first touchdown, then and I thought the same thing when they played at Churchill about a month ago. Like if they could have gotten the first touchdown, I think it would have been a little different ball game, just because they're so run dependent. And once Thurston gets that lead, they have a running back, Justin Fisher, who was the Midwestern League Player of the Year, and they have an equally good running back behind him in Cruz Gray, who they can kind of just rotate those two dudes, and their junior quarterback, Emmett DeStefano, has done a really, really nice job, I think, with the playoffs and stuff this year. So when Thurston gets a lead, there aren't a lot of teams, especially in Class 5A, that can sort of stop them from doing what they want to do. Their offensive line is very good. They rotate 6 guys in there, so they stay fresh, so it's not like you're going to wear them down throughout the game. And when Thurston's playing downhill on you, like, it's just not a lot of fun. And Churchill has a very talented quarterback in Lucas Ganson, but they just they don't throw the ball a whole heck of a lot. That's just not how their offense is designed. So when they have to play from behind, it does get a little dicey for them. And then you factor in that they're playing a very good Thurston defense. It's just not an easy thing to do. So I will be really interested to see who gets the first touchdown on Friday. And I think that it's going to tell you a lot about how the game unfolds.
Yeah, and speaking of Cruz Gray, who you mentioned, he's also the defensive player of the year for Thurston as a linebacker, and they just were littered all over for the first team and second team, both offensively and defensively. Thurston's just really good. I mean, they've really clamped down defensively, especially over the last month. It's just going to be a tough challenge to head into this game, is it not, to beat them?
Yeah, no doubt. And you mentioned Cruz Gray. He's such a fun defensive player to watch. Like they have a really good front seven, but it kind of allows him to not freelance, but when they blitz him, like he's just a free runner, and the dude plays with his hair on fire. Like I think he led class Class 5A in tackles for losses here because he just kind of takes off like a rocket into the backfield and is a very sure tackler. And then on the offensive end, you mentioned all the all-league stuff they got. Like they have 4 good tight ends. I think 4 tight ends who are first-team all-league caliber that they rotate through, and they can run 12 personnel, they can run 13 personnel when they want, and they just make life kind of miserable for teams when they get a lead. And you mentioned the depth, I don't have the all-league teams in front of me, but you're right. It seems like they had a dude at every position on first or second team, and then they had 6 offensive linemen between first, second team, and honorable mention. Like it's just a very deep, very physical, very experienced group, and they have some really good skill position players in addition to Cruz Gray and Justin Fisher. Like Bodie Bonar is probably going to be a first or second team All-State receiver who's had a very productive year. They've got dudes all over the field. They're hard to stop.
It's our friend Jarrid Denney from the Register Guard. You can read him there online as well, Jarrid_Denney on Twitter, and he joins us to talk a little OSAA playoffs. And let's move to the 6A ranks in a titanic matchup. Number 4, Willamette. Number 5, Central Catholic. Central Catholic sets down Newburgh 42-14. Robbie Long, 141 yards, 3 touchdowns for the Rams. KK Sambi runs for 100 yards, a touchdown. Tyson Davis scores twice on the ground, while Willamette just dominated Mountainside 42-20. Zeke Thomas, the transfer from Crescent Valley, kept his hot streak going, 236 yards through the air, 5 more touchdowns, also ran the ball for 56 yards. Hunter Vaughn adds 79 yards receiving and 2 scores. Brody Butler was the leading receiver with 80 yards in the score. Do we need to put more light bulbs up in the Willamette scoreboard for this matchup between Central Catholic and Willamette?
We might have to, man. It's gonna be such an interesting matchup. Like Willamette, obviously, for those who've been following, the Southwest Conference wasn't the toughest test this year in terms of opponents. That Grants Pass had a really good win as a 10 seed the other day. That I think, we'll maybe get that conference a little more respect, but Willamette was far and away the best team in that league, I think, and I think an interesting wrinkle is most of their difficult games were on the road. So they did have to go to West Salem, they did have to go to Sprague, they did have to go to Grants Pass early in the year, and I think they've just matured really well as this year's gone on. Like everybody knows about the transfer deal at this point. They have around 20 transfers in their roster, and I think it probably took a little bit of time for that team to mesh and figure out roles and figure out their footing and figure out what works best. But I mean, you mentioned Zeke Thomas, man. He's just playing some incredible football over the last few weeks. Like you mentioned his Mountainside performance, but he went 10 for 10 with something like 285 yards and 3 touchdowns against South Salem a week earlier, and that was an uncompetitive game. But to go 100% passing at any game at the 6A level is pretty impressive. And I was talking with Josh Line, Willamette's head coach, about him yesterday for a story that'll be out later this week, just previewing that game. And he's just so impressed with how Zeke has continued to mature and add little wrinkles to his game. And as a kid, again, who's only a 10th grader, and it sounded like I wasn't at the Mountainside game, but they really tried to take away Hunter Vaughn, Willamette's star receiver, with some bracket coverage and shading a safety over his way. And he still got his. He had 2 touchdowns and 3 big catches, but but Josh Line was really impressed with the way that Zeke sort of just took what the defense gave Willamette and gave him. And you mentioned Brody Butler and some of those other guys that he was able to dish the ball around to. And Kabai Chamberlain, they're very good tight ends. Like they've got weapons all over the field, and I think maybe they're thought of as a little bit of a 2-man show with Zeke Thomas and Hunter Vaughn, but that's a very talented receiver group, and they have a very talented backfield, and they have a couple of very talented tight ends, one of whom is Tony Cumberland, the top 100 recruit, who's going to be an all-state defensive lineman. Like they like putting him at tight end, and they like getting some wildcat looks under center on the goal line. So they've got weapons all over the place, man. It's just going to be interesting to see how Central Catholic kind of goes about trying to stop them.
And a couple good running backs as well. Maverick Akers has been kind of injured this season, so they've had some freshmen step up, which has been pretty intriguing. I know when I talked to Josh Lyon that he was really impressed with the team about that. But I want to take and turn the attention to the defense, because I think the defense has been very good. You obviously have a very good personnel, and Tony Cumberland is back there, but haven't had like shutout performances necessarily. So I guess I would maybe sort of nitpick at this team in one area. Maybe it would be the defense. Is that where you see as sort of the key for this team? They're so talented offensively. Is it just going to come down to how well they can stop these other teams, because they're going to get theirs?
Yeah, absolutely. And to be honest with you, it's been a bit hard to cover Willamette this year because I haven't seen them a ton because all of their games that they play in town, like scheduling your game of the week
Right.
when you only have one high school sports reporter is a little bit of an art, not a science. Like you kind of got to look for some games that are going to be competitive and give our readers something to read about. So it was a bit of a bummer that Willamette's sort of really competitive games were all on the road. So I didn't see them against Dallas. I didn't see them against West Salem. I didn't see them against Sprague or Grants Pass. And I haven't seen them since that Sheldon game that they won pretty handily about 6 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm really interested to see how far that defense has come because it is talented, like you mentioned it. They're a lot of the same dudes that I just mentioned playing offense or playing defense as well. And I think in a way they're almost more talented on that side of the ball because Tony Cumberland is just a game wrecker. But some of it is just self-inflicted errors too. Like they'll get some flags, they'll some pass interference stuff. I remember against Sheldon where like they're very frenetic, very like they fly around, they play hard, and sometimes that's going to lead to giving some freebies to the other team. So it sounds like they have sort of showed that up a little bit over the past few weeks. And like you see that South Salem score, like South Salem, what was it, 56-28? Like South Salem throws more than any team in the state. The quarterback, Kellen Bowman, is very good. So even though they're not a great win-loss team, like they have a very good passing attack. So I am going to be really interested to see how Willamette copes with Central Catholic and what seems to be a really good offense.
Jarrid Denney joining us. You can read him in the Register Guard. He is here on the Danny Justin radio program. One more visit, and he gets his nickname. That's got to be exciting. And I think we should start giving out plaques or something with people's nicknames on them. That would be awesome. Thanks for tuning in here on a Wednesday. So let's talk about the 4A ranks. And with all of the upsets that were happening, and there were upsets in every single other classification, the 4A stayed according to chalk. And Junction City, out of 4 teams that made it out of the Sky M, they are the only survivor as they take on top-rated Cascade in a tough matchup for Ty Roshert's team. But, man, you got to be impressed with what the Tigers, how they've resurrected this program and turned things around in just 1 year. They're playing with a lot of energy, and they bring a scheme offensively that can fool some people, and they outlast Staten 31-21. A lot of misdirection on the offense and a defense that just swarms to the football.
Yeah, without a doubt. I think you described that team really well. Like, Junction City is such a fun story, man. They were, I believe, 3-8 the year before, and then Ty shows up with a lot of the same staff and a lot of the same kids, and I didn't see them last year, but they just seem like a group that really loves playing football and loves playing together, and it just looked sort of contagious. They beat Marist Catholic on Marist Field to win the Sky M League, like you mentioned, the regular season finale. Like, that's your crosstown rival, your private school rival when you're kind of the gritty public school. Like, it doesn't really get any better than that, and they did it by, I think, playing a really interesting game plan. Like, they have 2 very good running backs and Cutter Franks and Staten Barnes, who, like, neither one of them are, like, really big kids, but they just run so damn hard between the tackles, and they play with so much effort, and, like, it seems like every time one of them's tackled, they're falling forward 5 more yards. So, and same deal on defense. You mentioned them flying around. Like, they hit hard. I think they're disciplined in coverage. Marist Catholic has a great quarterback, a couple of great receivers, and they really struggled to move the ball on them. So, and with that Staten win, Junction City was the higher seed in the 8-9, but Staten's a good ball club.
Oh, very good.
Yeah, the coach, Randy Nyquist, like, ask anybody who's coached around here, like, Randy's a legend in the game. Like, beating that dude in a first-round playoff matchup is not an easy thing to do. So they've absolutely earned everything they've gotten to get here. And you mentioned Cascade. I covered them last year when I was at the Statesman Journal. They're an outstanding football team. Yep. They have, I think, the best player in 4A, and their running back, Bryce Kenzie, who I think if he suffered a knee injury last year, otherwise I think they might have won a state title. They run the ball incredibly well. They have another very good running back, Matthew Hinkle, who they can kind of rotate those 2 dudes or use one as a fullback, and they're really tough, man. They're really tough on a grass field, which this game's being played at Saya, which has a turf field, so maybe that helps the Tigers a little bit. But I think that's going to be a really interesting kind of clash of styles with that game.
And we had a chance to talk to Ty Roshert, I think it was a couple weeks ago before their game against Marist Catholic. I know you've had a chance to talk to him, so I think you could kind of attest to this. He's just one of those guys that when he talks, like, you kind of want to run through a wall, right?
And without a doubt, man. Like, even it was before that, a couple days before that Junction City Marist game, and exactly what you said. I talked to him for about 20 minutes, and I hung up the phone. I, like, walked back out to our office, and it's like, wow, I feel like ready to get some work done. It's just he's a good high school coach. Like I think the world would be a better place if we had more coaches like him around here. Like it's a nice balance of inspiring kids and motivating kids without like totally being a drill sergeant. I think they've done a really good job with that program. And from a selfish standpoint, it's fun to have a team like that to cover around here. Like it makes things more interesting when Junction City is good at football.
Absolutely. Jarrid, thanks for your time. Look forward to your coverage, and thanks for all the work that you do, traveling all around, spending those late nights on the weekends, and standing out in the rain, getting the quotes from coaches that might not want to talk to you, but you find a way, and we appreciate everything you do there at the RG.
Hey, I appreciate you guys, man. You better come through on this nickname for me with something good.
Man, now the pressure's on, Jarrid. Jeez, dude, we just met. Don't throw that on me.
That was a good move, Jarrid. That was a good move.
Nice, buddy. All right, well, I'm getting my homework done now. So next time you're on, maybe next week. You never know.
Right on. I appreciate it, fellas.
All right.
Take care.
Thanks, buddy. There he goes, the great Jarrid Denney from the Register Guard in USA Today. Jarrid_Denney on Twitter. Washington State just fired their athletic director.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Breaking news on the Denney and Justin radio program. We'll talk about that, maybe some other things next. There's some folks up in Corvallis right now that are going, really? Washington State just fired their athletic director? What about our athletic director? When we come back on the Denney and Justin radio show. So if you missed the first 45 minutes of the program, you can go and pod it wherever you podcast, Denney and Justin, or the fastest 60 minutes in sports. You can find us there on all the different platforms, Odyssey, Apple, Amazon, iHeart, Spotify, every single one of them, YouTube. You can also look at our video. I don't know if you want to look at our video from yesterday. I did finally figure out our switcher thing, so we'll have better camera angles at Laurelwood than we had yesterday. Percy Allen, who's a Seattle-based journalist for the Seattle Times, broke the news just about an hour ago that Washington State has fired athletic director Ann McCoy. She was promoted to the job in the spring of 2024, and she's been at the school for more than 2 decades. And she's out, which I don't...
It's kind of odd.
That is odd.
It's kind of odd. I did hear that their program was struggling financially, so I guess that's
every
mid-tier
program is struggling right now.
That's kind of my point. And so, it's interesting kind of looking at it from the Oregon State perspective, right? Because these are the two teams that you're looking at going in the Pac-12.
There's been a groundswell to say fire Scott Barnes at Oregon
There has
State.
been. I think that this is an aggregate, good thing for Washington State, or for Oregon State, I would say. Just because we have a little less stability now for Washington State. But it certainly is interesting because you looked at these two programs. You've kind of looked at the way that Oregon State's kind of handled things and the way Washington State's handled things. And you can just easily look at Washington State and go, well, they've kind of come out way better than Oregon State has in many ways. And here they are. They're still firing their athletic director. So it just shows.
No official statement from Washington State yet. There's been the report. It's been validated, and then Pete Thamel comes on Twitter and says it's real, and it was real. So
I feel like she made a good hire with the head coach, Jimmy Rogers.
It's turned out okay there.
That's what I'm saying. It's not a disaster. It's like the Beavers are a disaster. It's an unmitigated disaster. What Washington State's doing is not a disaster.
Maybe they've identified, the school president or whatever, or the board of regents, whoever is the hiring process of that, have identified some young, hot person they want to pull in who can fundraise and grab in NIL. That's the arm race with the Pac-12 coming up.
Well, and that's another thing, too. It's like you have to look at it. If somebody that's doing a decent job gets let go, there must be somebody that they're looking to bring in that they know is somebody that
it's normally relationship thing. So I would look at where was the last president stop and who was their AD there, or who was their hot young assistant AD, whoever that is, man or woman, that they want to bring aboard. So that's where I'd look first, because there was a change in leadership there at Washington State last year, because Mike Schill, I think it was Mike Schill or Pat Chung or whoever, they left.
Chung. It was Chung.
All right.
Mike Schill was the president for Oregon.
Okay, sorry. There was it was the guy from Kansas State who then went to, I'm blanking on his name right now. I'll circle back to it tomorrow. Michigan State has to vacate 14 wins from the 2022 through 24 seasons due to participation of 3 ineligible players. So Jonathan Smith officially has 0 Big Ten wins. On3 Sports reported it.
They had 0 wins. I saw this, and I just wasn't sure if that was true.
Well, that's what he
that's
said.
bizarre. So he's getting penalized for something that wasn't even his fault, basically. That's unfortunate.
So that's, so he has 0 Big Ten wins in his tenure in the Spartans.
Yeah, well, it hasn't really worked out for Jonathan Smith and Michigan State, I'd say. That was definitely, I think we've talked about this off the air. It just seemed like one of those situations where it just, he wanted to basically just find a job that he felt like was more secure. But Michigan State, not a program in the Big Ten right now that is a very attractive
Storied
one.
history.
Absolutely.
Mark D'Antonio.
Kirk Cousins. I mean, even recent history. I mean, they've got
And they've got resources.
Absolutely. I mean, this program should be doing better.
Yeah.
But it's tough right now. That's what happens in the Big Ten now. With you have 4 teams that are coming in, and arguably 3 of them are ahead of the pecking order of Michigan State. And all of a sudden now Michigan State was this sort of second-tier program that would occasionally win a Big Ten, something. But now it's like you look at the Big Ten, it's like there's got to be 10 teams that you look at and say that's a better program.
They're
than Michigan
not on
State.
anybody's radar right now.
No.
None. South Dakota State Jackrabbit basketball comes into the MKA tonight. My daughter and I will be in attendance. You'll see us in Section 103. Wave to us and say hi. Row B. You can come down. Brian Peterson, in his first year as the head man for the Jackrabbits, great name. He's 2-1. He comes in. Jaden Jackson scoring 17 points a game. Damon Wilkinson 7 rebounds a game. Ducks, even though they're 2-0, it's been 2 very close games, not overwhelming any of their opponents thus far.
Now I'm just miserable.
Nate Biddle averaging 18.5 points a game, 11 rebounds a game. Jackson Shellstad, 1 appearance. He's got an average of 4 assists a game in the 1 game, 3 steals. Nate Biddle, 5 blocks per game thus far out of the gate. We'll see if this team can start to gel a little bit more. And with Shellstad, who was ahead of schedule, hopefully, and I know they didn't rush him, but let's see if that progress starts to keep accelerating. And if they can bring someone like a Whalen along a little bit slower and let the speed of the game catch up, or not just narrowly the speed of the game, but the ability to assimilate into the program, I think would be a better way to put that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is something that Coach Altman talked about coming into the season, about how it's going to be an adjustment for these guards not named Jackson Selstad to get into the system and just kind of get their feet underneath them at the Division I level in this program. So for Wei Lin specifically, I mean, it's just been a rough start for him. He hasn't been, played very well so far, but I think that's kind of what we should have expected. Also, there's
KJ.
Right.
Figure out what's going on with KJ.
A little bit of a distraction as well with Jamari Phillips, who hasn't played yet, serving a 3-game suspension.
Selling shoes.
So I just had to mention
I didn't know
that.
it was still a thing.
Yeah, I didn't know that either, to be honest with you. But I think this is a very, very big part of the season for Nate Biddle. They're going to really need Nate Biddle to step up right now. I'm not saying he hasn't been good, but just they're going to lean on him, like you're saying.
He's averaging a double-double.
Yeah,
so
5 blocks per game so far. Yeah. So, he's been great so far, but they're going to need to continue to have him be great, and be able to stretch the floor is going to be huge for them.
I want to see if they can go tempo tonight. If they can sustain tempo tonight, it will be interesting for me to see.
I think that Coach Altman's going to want to see the turnovers decrease. They're averaging about 16.5 per game. Not great. And the three-point shooting, they're shooting 20% on the season. I think you're going to want to shoot in the 30s. That's going to be, let's keep that as a goal today.
Okay, but the other thing is let's be real about this as well, is Dana Altman wants, and his offense is predicated on transition and getting an open shot. You get an open shot, you take it.
Absolutely.
So it's not like these kids need to be afraid about taking threes. They got to start making the open looks. And that's what this offense is. And if it works to perfection. So we'll see tonight. South Dakota State at MK. 6:30 tip at Matt Knight Arena.
Oh, a joke!
I got fired from the bank today. A woman asked me to check her balance, so I pushed her.
Dad jokes!
What explorer was the best at hide and seek?
Not Dora, I'm assuming.
Marco Polo.
I should have gotten that.
Yeah,
that's a game I played as a kid.
I was trying to do the whole eye thing to see if maybe you were going to connect with that.
You said Explorer, and I thought of Dora, and so that's where I went with. It's one of those you got to just go whatever you're thinking sort of things.
And you did. And that's why we love you. Tomorrow on the program, we're going to have the mayor of Rip City, Travis Demers. Blazers tonight at 6, I believe, right? I think it's 6 o'clock. Yeah, I think it's 5 o'clock against New Orleans. 5 o'clock against the Pels, coming off a tough loss against the Magic. Blazers are 5-5. We'll also have the voice Minnesota football. Mike Grimm on the program tomorrow, so you don't want to miss it. Right back here at 2 p.m. Pacific time. For Baby J, I'm Danny. God bless, be well, put a smile on your face, someone else's. They deserve it, so do you. Peace.